thinking of a prospect, not a client, that we had in, gosh, 8 years ago now, 9 years ago. I'd only been in the business for a couple of years at that point, actually being in client meetings, client facing, that kind of thing, and a widow client of ours, and we have several, had actually recommended and referred us to this prospect. And so we come in and find out that her husband had unexpectedly passed away in a work accident. And I will never forget the look on her face of not shock, but overwhelmed. She was just overwhelmed with everything. And her husband had done a great job saving. He'd done an awesome job saving. But when she walked in and she was talking to us, she just kept going, yeah, I don't know. There's this and there's another there's something, and she was getting frazzled, and she just lost her husband. Rightfully so. But she kept pulling out statements. 17 different investment accounts. And I work with a lot of different people. Most of the people I work with have net worths in like 2 to 7 million range. But we have clients who have net worths up to, I don't know, 60 or so. Even with those clients in that ultra high net worth bucket, I hardly ever see people with 17 accounts. And he had just kept opening new accounts, kept implementing new trading strategies, kept doing this, kept doing that. This buddy wanted some money over there, so he gives it to him. And then he died. And his wife was left with 17 different accounts to figure out. And so we start working through everything with her, trying to make sure the beneficiaries are lined up. Some of the beneficiaries on the accounts were their kids, and she's like, that's not right, but the beneficiaries were the kids, and so we're trying to figure that out. And we go through a plan with her, take all the accounts, put it in a financial plan. And it shows she's okay, but she can't believe it. I mean, she literally couldn't believe it. They'd saved up $2 million. But she's like, yeah, okay, yeah. And what it came down to, a couple of things. One, she didn't know us. And she was at a very critical and vulnerable spot in her life. And she didn't know us. And I get it, because the amount of trust it takes, especially when the person you love the most is taken away from you, it takes so much trust. And if you don't have that relationship already, that's a lot to ask of a person. Number two, she had never been involved in the planning with her husband. The financial planning, the assets, the liabilities, here's why I'm saving into this account, honey, here's what we're doing, here's who you call if something happens. None of that got discussed. And so she felt lost and alone. And so she had this friend who said, yeah, go meet with my guys, they helped me when my husband passed, which is true. But even after going through the plan with her, she ended up getting some poor advice from, I think, a sister or something like that. I've only met her once or twice, but this story still sticks in my brain. saying she should just invest all the money in CDs, something along those lines. And I remember this has always hit me as a cautionary tale to you all, right? Because I know my demographic from my last couple of videos, it's mostly men in their mid 40s to mid 60s, and I see it every day of the man wants to come in and the wife doesn't. Or, you know, if the wife is more likely the one who cares about the finances, one spouse usually is the one that comes in. And sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get both spouses in. But it's so useful because you just never know what's going to happen in this world. And even something as simple as, if something happens to me, remember, we looked at that plan. Yeah, okay, and guess what? There was enough. If we live within this means, with these assets, these liabilities, we're good. And looking at that before something happens creates a level of trust and ability to actually spend those assets so that the widow or the widower are not left scrambling trying to figure everything out on the back end. And then number two, what it does is it gives them a permission to trust someone, because we had already looked at the financial plan. We had already talked to our team of planners. We know they're not saying anything crazy now and selling a snake oil, right? Does that kind of make sense? And so I think about her probably once a month. And we just had a recent widower client in, and he made me think of her again, because it's been almost a decade, and I hope she got the help she needed. I'm not sure if she did or not. At least at the start she didn't. And it didn't have to be us. I'm not saying this from like a selfish perspective, but my ask to you all and my caution to you all is, don't go through your planning and your retirement analyses and keep it in some dark closet to never share with the ones who need to hear about it the most. Have that conversation with your spouse. Have it be a joint venture. And obviously, not everyone has the same care for numbers and analysis. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is take 15 minutes and say, we're good. We can retire on this much then, and do that. It doesn't have to be an hour and a half lecture on, capital market assumptions and rates of return and inflationary data and historically the CPI. No, that even bores me, and I'm a CFA. Take the time, share the information that needs to be shared with the ones you love the most. Help them understand who they should talk to, and even have that conversation as necessary, depending on the ages, with your kids, right? Hey, if something happens, to your mom and I, or what have you, here's the people you should call. In our lockbox, we have a list of our assets and phone numbers and all that kind of thing. It doesn't matter until it matters, and when it matters a lot.